All right, for the first time in 49 days, 7 weeks, we're talking about a Mountaineer victory on the road against the 22nd ranked Houston Cougars. All that on this episode of Mountaineer Moment. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. All right, welcome back in, everybody, to Mountaineer Moment. This is episode number 66. Again, we're talking about a Mountaineer victory. Finally, man, this feels good. Mountaineers go on the road to Houston and win the game 45-35. This episode's coming about 35 seconds after the game went final, so certainly an immediate reaction, initial thoughts on the Mountaineer win, and again, it just feels good. First time in 7 weeks, first time since the backyard brawl way back on September 13th. Mountaineers win here on November 1st on the road against a 7-1 team who's now 7-2 and whose season we just spoiled a little bit, right? They had Big 12 title aspirations. There was talk of like college football playoff for them. Well, that talk is now over thanks to your Mountaineers winning this game 45-35. Again, I'm pumped up. If you can't tell, we haven't talked about a Mountaineer win in quite some time. So we're going to break this episode into 4 different parts. One is just this immediate reaction. Okay, so Mountaineers win. What are some things that just jump off the page? Initial first kind of thoughts. We're going to talk about some big defensive plays from the Mountaineers and a big play on special teams to help seal the deal. Then we're going to talk about this true freshman quarterback, Scotty Fox, and what he was able to do in this one in his third career start. And then we're going to end with just some conversation about Rich Rodriguez teams because we talked about heading into the season. Like Rich Rod is known for teams that improve throughout the season. And while Mountaineers didn't get the win against TCU last week, they looked better. We've acknowledged that right here on Mountaineer Moment. And now is like two touchdown underdogs on the road against a ranked team. Mountaineers find a way to win by 10. It's a sign of life. For as much as this team has gone through, as many injuries they've had to deal with, Rich Rod, man, you got to give him credit. We're happy he's here in Morgantown as the Mountaineers get the win. So first thing first, immediate reaction. So again, you get the win, and it just feels good. Mountaineers got off to a really hot start offensively, 2 consecutive scoring drives to take a 14-0 lead. I think what stands out the most is, you got off to a hot start. Houston obviously made this thing a game, and then you finished well, right? A hot start and a hot finish from the Mountaineers to be able to get this victory, right? Just when you thought, oh no, right? Just when you thought, oh no, Houston's going to make a run, and they did, and they fought and scrapped and clawed their way to make this a game, but it was the way that the Mountaineers were able to respond to that, effort by Houston, right? So obviously at the end of the first half, it's a 21-21 game. Houston gets the ball to start the third quarter. You think they have an opportunity to go down the field and take the lead, and then it's like, oh boy, who knows what this thing's going to turn into? But that didn't happen. They threw an interception of kind of a crazy play off a defender's foot and picked off for Mountaineers on the second play. So Mountaineers, even though they didn't start the half with the ball, a minute into the half they had the ball in their possession with a tie game. They're able to make a 50-yard field goal to go up 24-21, and then it stayed there for a little bit. And then obviously, another interception, the big play, middle of the third quarter, Scruggs with the pick six, 80-yard return. When again, it looked like the Houston Cougars were threatening to tie or take the lead. You take that and you go up by 10 points. And there were a few other plays that we'll get to, in just a moment. But again, I think it was you start well, you finish well, right? Again, there were opportunities that Houston had, and obviously they didn't play particularly well. They're not going to go into their locker room right now talking about how well they played and just came up short, right? They're talking about missed opportunities. The same conversation we were having about the Mountaineers, that they had missed opportunities against TCU last week. And I think that's how Houston feels right now. Obviously, they don't feel like they played their best, and they shouldn't because they didn't, right? It's kind of the story in this one. So we'll take a look at the box score real quick just to give you some numbers, and then we'll continue through this progression through this episode. So Connor Weigman, definitely not his best game, despite 4 touchdowns and 300 yards. He had 2 picks, lost fumble as well. That were very costly. He didn't do anything in the ground game. Shout out to the Mountaineer defense, right? He came in, I think it was like 21 carries for over 100 yards last week, and he had 90-plus yards the week prior against Arizona and Arizona State, and he did nothing today, right? His official box score will say 12 carries for negative 27 yards, due to some, him getting corralled in the backfield a few times. Obviously, Mountaineers did have 3 sacks and 5 TFLs in this game. Jamori Robinson sighting with a fumble recovery and a couple times he got in the backfield in a QB hurry, and I think he had one of those TFLs as well. Did Jamori Robinson. So, and a pass defended. So, shout out to Jamori Robinson with a sighting for the Mountaineer defense, obviously, that we're happy about. And again, not the best performance from Connor Weigman. 4 touchdowns for him. But Scotty Fox, no turnovers. He was 13 of 22, 157, and a touchdown on a beautiful, nice catch by Cam Vaughn in that first half. Scotty was more involved and more effective with his legs than we had seen in the previous 2 weeks. 10 carries for 65 yards, obviously. 2 touchdowns on the ground for him. The big one coming on a 3rd down. No, it was a 4th down, right? 4th down keeper, like 4th and 4. He took it for 34 for a touchdown for Scotty Fox in that second half. So that was huge. Mountaineers as a whole on the ground, 4 touchdowns. I thought Diore Hubbard, obviously his best game as a Mountaineer, 29 carries for Hubbard. Like, hello, that's amazing. 108 yards, 1 touchdown for him. Sincere Bowers got in on the action, 9 carries, 65 yards and a touchdown. I think that might have been his long was the 23-yarder. I think that was his touchdown. But again, 53 carries, 246 yards for the Mountaineer ground game. And coming into this game, we talked about it as a point of emphasis. Houston's run defense has been stout, especially the last 3 weeks. And so Mountaineer ground game able to get the job done. And they needed every bit of it to pull off this upset victory. On the other side of things, again, we mentioned Weigman and his inability to run the football. Another guy we talked about, Dean Connors, had 13 carries, 71 yards. He was pretty impressive. Even some guys he made miss throughout this game. He had 3 catches as well. But as a team, it was Houston who had just 82 yards to show for on the offensive side of things for Houston. Amari Thomas was phenomenal for Houston. Again, a name that we talked about, but he was really, really good as well. All right, so we're going to now just focus in, again, kind of like the second little part here would be on big defensive plays for the Mountaineers, one even on special teams too, but 4 Houston turnovers. Again, we mentioned the Weigman fumble when he was getting pressured and just lost it as he was getting ready to throw. Mountaineers pounce on it, able to capitalize. He, again, threw 2 interceptions, one in that opening drive of the second half for them. Thrown it into double coverage. Guy couldn't make a play. Mountaineers made a play. I think it might have been Scruggs involved on it. And then, who was that came down with it? I can't remember. That feels like so long ago because it was just the opening drive, of that second half. And it was, Carter Jr., Derek Carter got the pick and a couple tackles for him on the day. But that was big. And then, obviously, Jordan Scruggs making a great play, great read on the ball. And it's one of those picks, right, where he's, kind of a turnaround route for a receiver, and you jump it, and there's no one in front of you when you catch that thing. And so he took it 80 yards to the house, uncontested, and just an incredible play. Fred Perry was big. We've been used to saying his name, obviously. 13 total tackles for him, 1 sack, and 2 TFLs. Very, very, very good, solid performance from Fred Perry in this one, too. But again, those turnovers made the difference. And then Mountaineers were up 10 with 4.5 to go. Houston gets a stop. West Virginia has to punt, and you're like, oh boy, because Houston's coming off of, they were down 17. They scored real quick, and now you're giving them the ball back with some decent amount of time to work with on the clock, and then a punt that there's a bunch of players around it when it landed, and it ends up touching a Houston player, and Mountaineers pounced on it. My goodness, that was huge. And that was the game. That was it. And, Weigman again struggled. immensely. But those other guys that we talked about, there was an episode we dedicated solely to, this Houston offense with Weigman and Dean Connors, Amari Thomas, and then Koziel, the tight end, who was big, but not big enough for them. 5 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown. We mentioned over and over and over again that's Weigman's favorite 2 targets is Thomas and Koziel, the tight end, and it proved to be the case today. So 25 completions for Houston, 15 of which were to those guys, and then 3 more to Dean Connors. So, not that there's only 3 guys that they use in that offense, but man, oh man, they get a lot of the production, and that proved to be the case today, right? I mean, that was a whole episode dedicated to talking about those weapons, and they were the weapons in this game too. So, but Mountaineers able to get the win, even though Amari Thomas had some pretty incredible catches in his 3 touchdowns. 99 yards and 10 catches, just a solid game from him. Jeff Weimer led the way for the Mountaineers, 3 catches, 67 yards, a big 53-yarder that we're going to talk about in a moment, but he was big. Rodney Gallagher, 5 catches, 53 yards. Cam Vaughn, I would have guessed, without looking at the box score, that he would have caught more than 1 ball. He had just 1 catch. It was a big one, obviously a touchdown for 24 yards for him. 13 completions for Scotty Fox, 22 attempts, but again, he was productive with his legs as well, particularly on that touchdown. So now part 3, rolling through these things quickly. Scotty Fox. We talked a lot about, whole episode dedicated to that as well. What kind of steps are we going to see in Scotty Fox as we go from start number 2 to start number 3 for him? Start number 2, obviously, he went for over 300 yards. Didn't do a whole lot with his legs, but got a lot of different receivers involved and had the Mountaineers, in a respectable game. A 6-point loss to TCU last week, right? So what kind of jump was he going to make from start 2 to start 3? And, I said very clearly, even in that episode, we're not talking about just the box score, right? Because I'm not saying Scotty Fox is going to take another jump. He's going to throw for 400 yards this week, right? That wasn't the deal. But just what are some things that we might notice? Is he going to, progress forward, or is he going to take a step back? And again, although the box score might not indicate it, Scotty Fox took some steps forward in this one. Had some beautiful passes. He had some plays that came at just crucial moments, right? 13 minutes to go in the 4th quarter, 4th and 4. West Virginia got stuffed, I think not stuffed, but got 6 yards on 3 consecutive runs. And you're 34 yards out. You're up by 3, and it's a QB-designed keeper, and Scotty Fox takes it to the house. Great blocking up front. Those guys we haven't talked about enough, but we're going to. 34-yard touchdown for Scotty Fox to take a 10-point lead in the 4th quarter. And then another big play, because obviously the 4th quarter had a lot of scoring, a lot of big plays, 21 points in that 4th quarter total between the 2 teams, but another touchdown, that put the Mountaineers up, another score came after, Jeff Weimer. So 3rd and 9, and Scotty Fox threw his best pass of the day to Jeff Weimer for 53 yards. And then Hubbard ended up taking it in for a 17-yard touchdown. Or I'm sorry, not for a 17-yard touchdown, to go up by 17 in that game. Let me see how long that touchdown run was. Yep, so the 53-yard pass to get us to the 30. And then, it was an 11-yard touchdown run from Hubbard after a couple runs by Sincere Bowers, who, again, was decently effective in this one, hard to tackle at times. And Diore Hubbard, man, again, shout out to him for his workload in the backfield. He proved some stuff today to me and Mountaineer Nation, right? 29 carries, 108 yards, 1 touchdown for him. But Scotty Fox and company, man, like you can't say enough about this performance from them. Again, it wasn't the most beautiful stat sheet to look at as far as Scotty and how effective he was in the passing game, but he had some timely passes. Again, the ball to Jeff Weimer was huge. The run he had was massive, and again, you can't say enough about Diore Hubbard and his performance, because you don't win this game without him and, just the way he was running hard. We got to talk about this offensive line, who we've been, let's say, critical of for weeks and weeks, and everybody's been critical of this offensive line, but the performance that they had, Houston didn't have a sack. So let's just start there. Houston didn't have a sack. They had 2 TFLs, and so you were able to keep Scotty Fox out of danger a lot, right? He took some hits. Part of that was, when he got beyond the line when he was running, you think of one hit he did take specifically, where he got slammed down to the ground. But obviously the run blocking was there. You break off a few big runs, did Diore Hubbard, Scotty Fox, and Sear Bowers, again, a 23-yarder for him. You get 4 rushing touchdowns. You run for almost 250. You'll take that every day of the week, right? That was really, really good run blocking. And again, for 22 pass attempts to not give up any sacks. And whether it's Rich Rod finding the right combination up there, it's not like there's a whole lot of new faces, but there's improvement along the offensive line, because, we mentioned through the team's first 7 games, this offensive line and their woes and their struggles and all their issues, and yet it wasn't like a fluke, right? Like, it wasn't a fluke. They just weren't playing well. Well, now against TCU, you saw improvement in the pass blocking. Against Houston, you see improvement, no sacks, and you win the football game. So credit where it's due, man. You got to give credit to this offensive line, who, again, paved the way for almost 250 yards, which is triple the amount that Houston was giving up on average the last 3 weeks. So that's significant in itself. And then not to give up any sacks. And, because, again, early part of the season, or early part of the Big 12, certainly quarterback drops back to pass, and you're thinking, this is not going to end well. He's going to get sacked. He's going to get hit. He's not going to be able to even go through his progression, because he's going to get knocked down. Well, whatever the Mountaineers are doing schematically, getting Scotty outside, doing some different things in the pocket, it's working. Let's just call it what it is. It's working. So Scotty Fox and company able to put up a lot of points, able to have a lot of success on offense, and able in order to get this victory. And again, that'll lead us into where we'll close this episode. So Rich Rod, again, we said it all season. Well, Rich Rod teams improve. Rich Rod teams improve. How much improving are they going to be able to do? Do we really believe that that's going to happen? Well, I think we've seen it happen over the last 2 weeks. Again, it's not the biggest sample size ever, and it's not against the best of the best in the Big 12 by any means, but TCU, not a bad football program. Obviously went to the national title just a few years ago. Houston now falls to 7-2, but that's a ranked win on the road. Houston, the surprise team, feel good story in the Big 12. Well, feel good no more, right? You just knocked them out, and it feels good. But they were a team that came into this ball game, whatever way you want to slice it and talk about it. They were 7-1 heading into this game, and you just beat them. Period. That's the facts. So we've seen improvement. We've seen improvement in this Rich Rod team. And again, it was, I think he even said post-game one game was like, well, we're at rock bottom now, or I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but, hard to get any worse. Hard to get any worse, that UCF game, and even the ones before it. But now, you fall short just a little bit to TCU at home on homecoming. You're on the road again against a ranked opponent. And not only did you play hard, which we've seen the last 2 weeks, hard running, better blocking, better defense, but then it's rewarded with a win. It's rewarded with a win, right? Because you can do all those things. You can make improvements over the course of a season and still lose games. Well, this week, you made improvements and you won the game. So shout out to Rich Rodriguez and his ability to help teams just get better. And we're seeing that. Now, am I saying we're going to reel off the rest of the season and go bowling? Like, no, I don't know. But with all the crap, all the stuff you've been up against, all the injuries you've dealt with, all the chatter you've been hearing, it sure does feel good to go into a ranked opponent stadium and win the football game. 45-35. And the fans were loud that were there for Mountaineers. The sideline was loud at the end of the game. Like, it was a team that was hungry for a win, and they went and got one. So Shout out to Rich Rodriguez. This shouldn't come as a surprise. His team's improved. I don't know if how much we were believing for it to happen, but I believe in it now, and it sure is sweet. So, again, got to keep things in perspective, right? We're still talking about a 3-6 ball club, but you won your first Big 12 game. You got 3 games to go in the regular season, and this next episode that we're going to be talking about, we're going to go deep dive on Scotty Fox, and we're going to be answering the question of, could he be the quarterback of the future for the Mountaineers? We'll talk about that on the next episode of Mountaineer Moment. But for this one, whatever platform you're on, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, hit that subscribe button for us, and we'll see you next time on Mountaineer Moment.